Shut up, it is not.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is. Obesity isn't real. It's a made-up thing. It is truly a made-up thing because really behind the word obesity is basically just a scientific way to dehumanize fat people and make the world, well, really Western society, believe that fat people are a problem or a disease. Fatness is not a disease. Okay, so before you come spewing things, make sure you fact check yourself. Make sure you look into what you're saying. I just want you to know that obesity is not real. And if you come from me being like, everything science says is 100% fact driven and truthful, I will debunk your ass quick. Because while I believe in science, I'm not an anti-vaxxer or any of the things that make people who are like, science isn't real. I'm not one of those. But what I am is a person who says science is a human-based experiment, basically, right? Scientists are humans and all humans are flawed and all humans have biases. So if we've looked over the history of science, there have been many times where science has been wrong. Like when science was super racist and said that white people had bigger brains than people of color, okay? Or like when science said that homosexuality was a disease and a mental illness. Okay. So when science can get multiple things in history wrong and then come back and be like, oops, my bad, science can also dehumanize an entire group of people to make others believe that they are a problem.
What's up, YouTube? Welcome or welcome back to the Saving Men's Lives Network. Today, fellas, we got a treat for you. This is a fat leftist who is upset, obviously. Upset because she wants to convince you that she believes that obesity isn't real. That's right. She wants you to believe that she believes that obesity does not exist. She wants you to believe that she believes that she is normal for her height, for her age, and for her weight. She wants you to believe that there's nothing wrong with being so far above your BMI that a domino effect of other health conditions are soon to follow. Roll the clip.
Okay, so I'm going to try to explain a couple things in the most easy way possible while I do my skincare. So whenever I use the word fat phobia, there's, of course, a lot of people who are like, phobia? I'm not afraid of fat people. This is just something the leftists have made up.
Well, that's exactly what it means. Phobia comes from the Greek root word phobos, meaning fear. So yes, that's exactly what words mean, but leftists know that when you change the word's definition, you can change the argument. And when you change the argument, you push forward your agenda. They know this. This isn't new to leftists. This is a tried and true tactic. This is why these people are literally falling all over themselves in the oppression Olympics is what I call it. Who can be the biggest victim today? So today apparently it's fat people, fat women like her in specific, because they're not getting the guys that they want. We're going to come back to that.
And the interesting thing is that there's homophobia, transphobia, all of these other phobias, right? Like,
do I know these people or do I know these people? Told you.
I could go on and on and on about systems of oppression. And one of the main reasons why it's labeled as such, or what I believe it's labeled as such, is because people then get to hide behind these prejudices and like discriminatory ideas and facts that they believe through the idea that it's a fear. And so like it should be validated because it's a fear, right?
I like how this overbloated woke asshole used facts with finger quotes in the air. It is a fact that the human skeleton was only designed to carry so much weight optimally. It is a fact that if you weigh more than you're supposed to, you're going to have things like an increased risk of high blood pressure, heart attacks, strokes, certain cancers. You're going to have, especially as a woman, you're going to have much more difficulty in carrying a baby successfully. Things like diabetes. These are not fictional. These are not figments of our imagination. This is the well understood knowledge gathered over millennia. But because that information is inconvenient to her, it must be discarded by her and apparently everyone else.
So that's why I choose to use fat phobia, because it is a real term that applies to a system of oppression. In addition to that, I also know that a lot of people use the term anti-fat or anti-fat bias or anti-fat stigma because they're tired of people being like, oh, that's not actually a real fear. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. And so they're like, well, then I'm just going to call it what it actually is, which is just like anti-fatness, point, period, blank. And I agree with that because it is just like straight up anti-fat bias and anti-fat hate.
I've said before that women and children operate nearly identically because they think nearly identically. I don't have time to get into that fully today, but understand this. Leftist women are even worse. When someone is trying to make an argument for their case and they use blah, 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 this is what happens when small children stick their fingers in their ears and go la 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 la. There is no oppression of fat people because fat is a condition that outside of very specific medical instances is 100% under the control of who has the fork in their hand.
So what I also wanted to just take a moment to talk about too is that this is not something new, okay? It's not made up. It is directly linked to evidence that can prove that we live in a westernized society that is based in fat phobia.
You know, we've been hearing about the obesity epidemic, especially in teens and small children going back several decades now. But even then, the idiocy of this chick's so-called argument falls apart when you realize that as someone who's actually read the Mayflower Compact of 1620, there was no sentence anywhere on that document saying we can't wait to found a country that makes fun of and treats fat people improperly. But see, this is what happens when you put a microphone in front of people who don't deserve one. This is what happens when someone who is so desperately trying to draw attention to themselves because they can't get it the way they're supposed to, passively, by drawing people in, attracting them to you the way magnets do. This is what happens when people who are invisible want to be seen. They say the stupidest fucking things, and they say it with a straight face.
That we see thinness as morally superior.
No, wrong again. Your woke college professors have failed you yet again. It's not morally superior. It is less taxing on your internal organs. It is less taxing on your spinal column. It is less taxing on your joints and your overall circulatory system. It is less taxing on your respiratory system. It is less taxing on your lymphatic system. It is better to be thin because your system's more than likely, barring any chronic illnesses of another type, to function at their highest levels. This is not something that can even be argued by someone who wants to be taken seriously in an adult conversation. But again, the goal here is victim points. The goal here is sympathy. The goal here is why can't I have Chad and Tyrone when chicks who weigh less than half what I do get them every day? I'm telling you fellas, you gotta read between the lines with these fat wokeists.
And that we see fat people as a disease and inhuman and blah, blah, blah.
Obesity is a disease and facts don't care about your feelings.
Right, and that gives people reason to be fucked up to humans that are fat.
For the record, it's never okay to mistreat someone who hasn't mistreated you. But understand, fellas, this is all about access. This is all about access to the top shelf guys. She'll deny it, but it's true.
And if you're like, fat people don't face discrimination, blah, blah, blah. If you just go to all of my videos and actually just look through the comment section, you'll see.
That's your proof? Mean comments on the internet. I mean, who saw those coming? This chick wouldn't last 10 minutes in my world. The things said about me and other manosphere content creators make the hair on your head stand up straight. But I tell you this, women like her, I promise you, the so-called hate in her comment section are people who think clearly and who rebutted her useless and nonsensical point of view. That's hate to them. You can't disagree with them. Never forget that.
It'll prove my point for me. I won't even have to do the work. And on the note of preferences, maybe a lot of preferences can be built from or informed by prejudice or discrimination or larger systems of oppression.
She is on the roll with these buzzwords today, fellas. It's not oppression. Preferences are built into people over tens of thousands of years worth of adaptive biology and adaptive reproductive strategy. It's well known that someone who is well overweight, while they may be a nice person, they might be real cool to be around and befriend, they may not be the best in terms of an adaptive biological sense, mate for mate selection. This is something that goes back way farther than any of us. And when you remind yourself that men are primarily visual creatures, you're also reminded at the exact same time that rolls and flaps and fupas are not ideal. When another woman, just as attractive facially I'm talking about, is just as easy to select without all the weight problems. It's ridiculous.
That we then push onto each other at the interpersonal level. So I don't want any fat person to be in a relationship or dating someone who is fat phobic or...
Well, the good news is there's no such thing as fat phobia, so that helps. But if someone's with you and they care about you and they know that you could be in a better health situation and look better in your clothes, if you lost some weight, you ought to take heed and do the work. But of course, this will require accountability. And as we know, anyone who thinks like this has already given up on life entirely, and they've settled into a new reality that they built for themselves.
Or who doesn't believe that fat people deserve care or love or dignity, etc. So if you read my video and you take away that I'm forcing people to find fat people attractive.
If the type of men she wanted to commit to her long term wanted her, she wouldn't even have a TikTok page. You feel free to quote me on that.
Never said in any of the videos. What I'm trying to get us to do is critically investigate why we have these preferences when they're not actually preferences. They're just anti-fat bias, right? That's what it is. Just call it what it is.
Well, there you have it, gentlemen. Straight from the heifer's mouth. Lizzo's white cousin has made it clear in this video, and I'm sure there's plenty others, that you don't have the right to have preferences that don't include her. You are not okay if you don't pass by women you're actually attracted to because they give a damn what they look like, both in their clothes and outside of them. If you don't go for this woman and women like her in her weight class, women who probably outweigh you by a minimum of 160 to 180 pounds. How dare you? How dare you not want to take on the financial burden to feed a woman this size? How dare you not want to take on the financial burden of having to provide medical care for something this enormous? Gentlemen, the war on men is multifaceted. The cross-dressers tell you have a problem if you don't want to date someone who has the exact same genitals as you. The fatsos are telling you there's a problem if you don't want to date someone who is either nearly or actually twice your body weight. You are the problem, gentlemen. Remind yourselves, this is an actual attack on truth itself. Men are visual. We like what we see. And if we see something that is curvaceous, that's fine. Round is a shape, but men of value prefer women who are in shape. And everyone knows what that is. We have no need to be lectured on the shapes that we like. We know what we like. It's instinctive. It's encoded in our DNA. And while, yeah, there are some chubby chasers out there, for the most part, men like women who are lean, who are fit, because we know that's a precursor to them not being exhausted going up a flight of stairs or anything else physical for you guys who are the outdoorsy or active types. So no, fellas, hold the line. Women do not get to tell men what we find attractive, especially when you consider the grocery list of things they demand from us just to get a seat at the table. No, we as men, we build the table. And so we get to decide who gets to take a seat at it. That said, fellas, that's my time. Like the video, comment down below. Share with a friend and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Never let your brother suffer in silence when the truth can set him free. Networkers, we working. Till next time.